waiting for the recital. I could hear Nancy calling my name as I raced down the stairs into the shadowy servants' hall. I paused at the bottom, letting my eyes adapt to the dimness, then hurried into the kitchen. A copper pot simmered on the huge stove, and the air was salty with the sweet of boiled ham. Katy, the scullery maid, stood by the 6 carving pans, staring blindly at the steamy hint of a window. Mrs. Towson, I guess, was having her afternoon lie down before the mistress rang for tea. I found Nancy at the table in the servants' dining room, surrounded by vast candelabras, platters, and goblets. "There you are, then," she said, frowning so that her eyes became two dark slate. "I was beginning to think I'd have to come in looking for you." She indicated the seat opposite. "Well, don't just stand there, girl. Get yourself a cloth and help me, please." I sat down and selected a plum milk jug that hadn't seen the light of day since the previous summer. I rubbed at the flecked spot, but my mind lingered in the nursery upstairs. I could imagine them logging together, teasing, playing. I felt as though I had opened the cover of a beautiful, glossy book and become lost in the magic of its story, only to be forced too soon to put the book aside. You see, already I had fallen under the spell of the Hartford children. "Steady on," Nancy said, wresting the cloth from my hand. "That, his lordship Brasilver. You'd better hope Mr. Hamilton don't see you carrying it like that." She held up aloft the fish she was cleaning and began to rub in deliberate circular motions. "There now, see as how I am doing it, gentle-like, all in the one direction." I nodded and set about the jug again. I had so many questions about the Hartfords, questions I felt sure Nancy could answer, and yet I was reluctant to ask. It was in her power, I knew, and her nature, I suspected, to ensure my future duties took me far from the nursery, if she supposed I was gaining pleasure beyond the satisfaction of a job well done. Yet just a new lover imbues ordinary object with special meaning. I was greedy for the last information, countering them. I thought about my books, tuck away, take head away. The way Sherlock Holmes could make people say the last thing they expected true. At full questioning, I took a deep breath. "Nancy? What is Lord Abuser Jones like?" Her dark eyes flashed. "Major Jonathan? Oh, he's a fine—" "No," I said. "No, Mayor Jonathan." I already knew about Mayor Jonathan. I shook my head, and Nancy had in thin eyebrow in disbelief, as if it were near impossible that people might find things to discuss that didn't concern the family at Riverton. In fact, Mother had always been resolutely close-lipped about business at the house. When I was younger, I had probed her, eager for stories about the grand old manor on the hill. There were enough tales about in the village as it was. I was hungry for my own tidbits to trade with the other children. But she only ever shook her head and reminded me that curiosity killed the cat. Finally, Nancy spoke. "Mr. Frederick, where to begin about Mr. Frederick?" she resumed, polizing, speaking through a sigh. "He's not a bad sort of fellow, not at all like his brother, mine, not one for heroics, but not a bad sort. Truth be told, most of us downstairs have a fondness for him. To hear Miss Townsend talk, he was always a scamp of a lad, full of tall stories and funny ideas, always very kindly to the servants. It is true he was a gold miner. It seems a suitably exciting profession. It was right somehow that the Hartford children should have an interesting father. My own had always been a disappointment, a faceless figure who vanished into the thin air before I was born, rematerializing only in hot whispered exchange between mother and her sister. For a time, Nancy said, he's turned his hand to that many things. I've all but lost count. Never been much of a one for settling. Our Mr. Frederick never want to take two other faults. First, there was the tea planting in Ceylon, then the gold prospecting in Canada. Then he decided he was going to make his fortune printing newspapers. Now it's motor cars. God love him. Does he sell motor cars? He makes them of those that work for him do. He's above a factory over Ipswich way. Ipswich? Is that where he lives? Him and his family? I said, nudging the conversation in the direction of the children. She didn't take the bait, was concentrated on her own thought. With any luck, he'll make a go of this one. He even knows his lordship would look gladly on the return for his investment. I blinked at her, meaning lost on me. Before I could ask what she meant, she had swept on. Anyway, you'll see him soon enough. He arrives next Tuesday, along with the mayor and Lady Jemima. A rare smile, approval rather than pleasure. The family always come together for the midsummer dinner. But Nancy, I said, it had been troubling me all week. It's August, not midsummer at all. She looked at me as if I just declared that a boiled egg wasn't square. Well, of course, it's August. Are you tropical? And the midsummer dinner would be held on the bank holiday? We can ask it has been. Just you mind, Mr. Hamilton. Don't hear you questioning your betters. I shook my head quietly. The celebrations are a little smaller this day. There hasn't been a midsummer ball in some time, but there's not one of the family would dream of missing the dinner. It's a tradition along with the other festivals. Like the Recital, I said, towering after her gaze. So, Nancy raised a brow. Someone's already blattered to you about the Recital, have they? I ignored her previous nod. Nancy was unaccustomed to being piped at the rumor pause. Alfred said the servants were invited to see the Recital, I said. Footman! Nancy shook her head haughtily. Never listen to a footman. Footman, if you want to hear the truth, my girl. Invited indeed. Servants are permitted to see the Recital, and very kind of the master it is due. He knows how much the family means to all of us, don't they? How we enjoy seeing the young ones growing up. She returned her attention momentarily to the face in her lap, and I held my breath, waiting her to continue. After a moment that seemed an age, she did. They'll be the 4 year they have put on the tricycle. Ever since Miss Hannah was 10 and took it into her head she wanted to be a theater director. Nancy nodded. Hey, she is a character as Miss Hannah. She and her father are as like as two eggs. How? I asked. Nancy paused, considering this. There is something of the wanderlust in each of them, she said finally. But full of wit and newfangled ideas, each as stubborn as the other. She spoke pointedly, accepting its description, a warning to me that such traits, while acceptable, idealistic credit for them upstairs, would not be tolerated from the likes of me.